Hello, my name is Chelsea Black, and today I will be discussing social issues surrounding families. When speaking of social issues surrounding families, several things come to my mind with the help of the articles I read from the book. First, I think of hierarchies within families and how these impact people in the future. Next, I also think about how people may choose a partner out of their race or culture and how this might impact them and others. Last, I consider how people of different sexualities go about creating their own families. These topics were explored in the articles I was assigned over families. I intend to offer explanations and findings for these topics to help develop a better understanding of the social issues surrounding families. First, I will discuss how natural hierarchies within families extend over into life outside of the family. All families have natural hierarchies. For example, a father may often be the head of a household, or a sister may be expected to do more housework than her brother. These natural hierarchies within a family work together along with hierarchies outside of the family. Once that daughter in the example is older and goes out in the world independently, she might believe that her place in society is lower than a man's. This idea spills over into society, creating inequality in natural positions within frames. These frames can be based on a cultural group, a race, sexual identity. Since people of color have faced discrimination and inequality since the United States was created, they often fall lower in the social hierarchy. Heterosexuality also stays at the top of the hierarchy based on discrimination and inequality for other sexual identities. Within these frames, the members will fix their position based on their original position in their family of origin, thus explaining how natural family hierarchies help form social hierarchies. Next, one of the article researches why Korean and Vietnamese women may choose white men over Asian men. Based on the author's findings, it was true that some Asian women often steered away from dictator-like men that resembled their father growing up. The women's fathers had created an overall idea in their mindset that all Asian men were exactly like their Asian fathers, dominating. This idea steered them towards another idea that white men that they had perceived as loving and caring. This belief of white men most likely stems from movies, television, shows, and the underlying assumption that being white somehow means that white people are better people. America's dominating aspects of the rest of the world with an already white-dominated society has created the illusion that America has the best of the best and white men are some kind of knights in shining armor. Once women are impacted negatively by a certain race, they may choose to believe that all men of that race are exactly the same way, which explains why some Asian American women might prefer to date white men rather than Asian men. Last, I learned about how lesbians choose to have children and how race and social class might impact this. Deciding to have a child can be a big decision for anyone, but it is, based on the readings, a big decision when considering sexual identity. Many lesbians struggle with the decision to have children because this might require them to come out to people in their life when, if they chose not to have a child, they would not be forced to decide whether or not to share their sexual identity with the same people. Based on the findings, lesbians' answers to questions of children varied depending on race and social class. Women of color in the working class often chose not to disclose their sexual identity to people around them due to conflicting community beliefs such as the fear of losing family support, which led to them choosing not to have children. White women of middle class often said that having children wasn't a big decision because they were not as afraid of telling the people around them about their sexual identity. These women felt their family was more neutral on the topic for the most part. Overall, research findings on the topic found women of color often had more trouble when it came to sexual identity and having children. Although varying social classes such as the white working class struggled in the same way with family support. White women overall, though, often face fewer barriers than women of color. Based on the articles I've read about family social issues, I have many views on the topics. First, I definitely agree that the hierarchy that we are raised in at home most definitely forms the idea that we fit in a specific spot within society. Do we always conform to this idea? I don't think so. I believe that we take what we want from our families and we leave what we don't. An example of this might be that you grow up in a traditional family with basic family ideals such as your father is the main provider and your mother either stays home or does most of the household duties. The son within this family may choose to grow up always thinking he is in the same way more significant than women within his career, education, and other aspects of life. A daughter raised in this family may despise how her mother does all of the household work while her father does nothing, and may choose to flip this narrative in the social aspects of life and question the barriers of this arrangement. With all of that said, I definitely think that the family hierarchies we are raised in shape our mindsets for the rest of our lives, whether we like it or not. Next, the article discussing how and why some Asian women choose white men over Asian men also made me come to a realization. This article made me realize the power that white American men have over the world. The power they have created has become so widespread and blinding that women from other countries have been convinced that white men are some kind of blessed beings, when in reality there are good and bad men, no matter where you're at in the world. Last, I learned, for the first time, the struggles that lesbians face when considering to have children or not. I had a preconceived idea that if people were considering children as a lesbian, the people around them would probably already know that they are lesbian, which would even be a deciding factor. I'm not sure what led me to believe this, but still I'm happy to learn and expand my knowledge of the many struggles people with different sexual identities regularly face, especially when considering race and social class. In conclusion, I have learned a lot more about family social issues and was happy to share these within this presentation. Thanks for listening.